Welcome to Actual Scale Modelling. This is part 1 of Airfix's RAF Refueling set, Scale 176. Now, in this kit we have the AEC Matador tanker and the Bedford QL tanker. Now, I've actually built these two before, and there's videos on for these. So this is going to form part of a diorama set, so I'm going to build these fairly quickly, and I'm not going to show you too much detail on them. But as you can see there, I'll just go through what's in the box. Now, straight off the bat, the packaging for this is really bad. They're all kits, but they're all just lumped in to one bag, and a few things are off the sprue, and they're not very well numbered either. So it's going to cause one or two little issues along the way, I think. There is quite a few sprues here, but I'm going to be quite careful when I'm picking them up, or parts will just fall off. But essentially, there's a bit of flashing on these, but not too much. The ones that I'm showing here is for the Bedford QLC tanker. The kit does also come with some figures, which is nice to see. But as I said, the sprues are all over the place, really, and that was a bit disappointing. There's not much I can say about the sprues and going through them, because they're not numbered properly, and that it would all be guesswork at this stage, so I don't want to mislead you and say this is for this, that's for that, when I could actually get it wrong. I'll go through these off camera, and before I start the build, also I'll be washing them as well, then I'll get a better idea which belongs to which. So I'm starting off with the Bedford QL tanker. Now off the bat, I've made a bit of a faux pas on this build already. The colour I'm using here is Humbrol 113 Rust. Now what I've done is I painted the whole truck in the wrong colour, and according to the illustrations and everything, this one shouldn't be the rust colour, it should be the blue and yellow colour. I didn't realise that until right at the end of the build, and I thought, well, I'm not going to go back and strip it all and repaint it, so I'm just going to stick with the colours that I painted. But if you look at the illustrations, you'll see I got it completely wrong. I think this was basically due to how the parts are numbered on the sprue. I didn't pay close enough attention, so it's my fault. So the interior of the build is fairly simple, paint wise. For the seats, it's 33 matte black by Humbrol. The tyres, I'm using Humbrol's 85 coal black. And that brings me on to the mainframe. Now, I know that's not its proper name. I cannot say the proper name. I always have difficulty saying that word. So, yes, I know what it's called, but I'm just not going to say it because I make a picky ears of it all the time. But there you go. So anyway, I've got the frame, and I'm just tidying it up. There's quite a lot of excess bits of sprue to take off here. But once I've got rid of all the excess sprue, I'm just building up everything onto the frame itself. So the drive shafts, the exhaust and everything is all going to get built up now. I'm not painting it. Generally I paint this all beforehand, before placing it on, but it's all going to be the one colour. There's an argument to be made that I should really do it in the proper tones and metals and so on, building this, but my point is you're really not going to get to see all that work, so it's all just going to be painted in black once it's all built, and it just makes the build a lot easier as well. All the components are set out quite straightforward for the drive shaft, engine block and things like that. I think it is better to build it onto the frame as you're going along, instead of building the drive shaft and everything and sticking it on at the end. That way you're not going to run into too many fitting issues. So as you can see there, I'm just fitting in the hubcaps into the wheels. And I painted these with a thinned down version of the 113 Rust. So it's a rust colour, but it's a very thinned down version to give that worn look. The suspension leaves I'm building off the frame. This just makes it slightly easier, and this part I will then just slide on to the actual frame itself. And this way it's easier than just to place on the wheels before putting on it. If I found in the past, if I put the wheels on after the suspension leaves and that on, they have a tend to bend and go out of shape because the contact points are quite small. There's not a lot to grip onto. So if you put them under any sort of pressure, you can actually move them. But once I get the wheels on, it's just a matter of manoeuvring parts of the drive shafts into the gearbox area. And now going back to the cab, now the interior is dry. So first of all, I'm fitting the seats. They are very small location points to follow here. They're not all that clear, so you may want to dry fit beforehand. Next to go on is the dashboard. Now I threw on a couple of bits of contrast colour here for the dials. It's not really necessary, but I wasn't sure whether you would get to see them when everything was closed up, and you don't really. So I'm not even bothered going to list the paints. There was a bit of white and black I used, but you don't really see it once everything's in place. The radiator area goes on next. Now the instructions say put that on, then put on the front of the cab. I put the radiator onto the front of the cab, then placed the whole unit in the where the seats and that are. I found this easier than trying to fit the radiator first, then the front part of the cab. Just everything lined up easier that way. And then the doors were next to go on, and then the back of the cab. Now you may have to manoeuvre this about slightly just to get everything lined up, but it does line up quite well. And lastly, the roof. Now because you may have to manoeuvre things a little bit to get everything lined up, try and build this while there's still give in the plastic. It's not 100% set, because once it's set, you will end up having to cut everything down and trying to get it to fit. Dry fitting this is quite difficult to see the alignment as well, so you have to do it straight away as such, but it does all fit together quite well. And once everything's dry, I'm just giving it its base colour of the rust. Next to go on are the lights. I almost forgot to put these on. This is why they're going on now and not earlier on. They should have went on earlier on, to be honest with you, but I almost missed them out. And then the front guard just sits at the bottom of the radiator. Next to go on are the supports for the tanker itself. Now, the instructions are not 100% clear here. There's 4 to go on, but it's actually only 2. The parts you see here actually are meant to go together to form 2. I initially put them on separately, thinking there was 4 different support struts for the tanker, but it's not the case. They have to sandwich together to make up one unit, and then it goes on to the framework. So what you're actually seeing there is me doing it wrong, but I realised my mistake and fixed it off camera. And once it was dry, everything's getting a coat of Humbrol 33 matte black. And then it's a Humbrol 11 silver for the lenses of the lights. And for the detailing on the grille, it's Humbrol's 53 gun metal. And then once it was dry, it just slots onto the frame. There's a little location point inside for it to sit on, and it does actually sit on really well. And then the rear mudguards are next to go on. And then the fuel tanks, which are painted in Humbrol 11 silver, they just go onto the side of that. There's also another tank that goes in the back of the cab. I suspect this one's the actual fuel tank. I think the other 2 I put on are probably gas cannon tanks. 2 metal guards are next to go on. They are on alongside the frame. I would imagine they're just like foot plates, so the operator can get up onto the tanker. I'm using Humbrol 33 matte black here. This is the working compartment at the back of the tanker, and the capsule is all black. Right, there's various valves and mechanisms going there, and they're all painted in Humbrol 11 silver. There's quite a few to put in, and you quickly run out of room in this little area. Each one does have its own location point, however, so if you just follow them, you should be able to fit everything in it, although, as I said, it's very tight. But I think the silver and black is quite effective on this. I'm not actually sure what the real colours are meant to be, but this is the colours that were listed. So as you can see, I'm just fitting the top part now. It's quite a tight fit, but it does fit on quite well. It just needs a bit of dry fitting if you're not familiar with this sort of fitting. It looks easy enough, but as I said, it's quite tight, and there's not much of a lip for the plastic to grab onto. There's a few things to place on the top of this. First of all, a couple of these hatches that go on. And then behind the hatches, there's a mount. This is for the metal part of the hose that will be attached to the tanker. And on the opposite end, there's another two mounts, smaller ones, different design from the one at the rear. The one at the rear will hold the main arm for the pipes. This is just the guiding mount for the pipe itself. And after giving everything a coat of Humbrol's 113 rust, it's time to connect the pipes. Now there's two large ones and two smaller ones. The larger ones go on the outside. They go onto the main fitting, then it guides down into the actual mount that holds the pipes in place. And then the other two pipes fit in from the centre, from the hatch down the tanker to the end. Now I had difficulty fitting these. In the end, I trimmed a little bit just to get them to fit. And all that's left to do is to fit the tanker onto the frame in its cradle. So this is where I'll bring the video to an end. Just remember, I got the colour scheme completely mixed up. This one should have been two-tone, but I done it all in the rust colour. I've decided not to change it and just leave it like that. In fact, I done a whole video of how annoyed I was that the instructions were wrong until I actually discovered it was me who was wrong, not the instructions. So I deleted that video. Maybe I should have kept it and shown it. It would have been quite amusing. So anyway, this will form part of the diorama that I'm doing. It will be a simple diorama. There's nothing too much into it. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? If you subscribe to the channel, please do so. Make sure you hit the notification bell. That way you'll be kept up to date, not only with this build, but all my future builds as well, of course. Hit the like button, don't be afraid to leave a comment, and of course you can share the video. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.